This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held November 5th, 2019 at 6 p.m. at the Council Chambers Building here in Old Town Cottonwood. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Haltz?
Here.
Councilmember Howdy?
Here.
Councilmember Matthews?
Here.
Councilmember Naren?
Here.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Here.
And Mayor Alinsky's absent.
Thank you. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
The next item on the agenda is the brief summary of current events by the mayor, the city council, and our city manager. The city council does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary, unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Do any council members have any item or summary or update for the public?
I do.
Okay.
On Friday, I attended a seminar at Mingus Union High School on Kids at Hope. It was put on by Superintendent Steve King from Cottonwood Oak Creek School District. A very interesting seminar on a new way to reach kids in school that need help, need additional help. It's a three-part program called Believe in the Student, Connect with the student, and Time Travel. There are two types of students in school, those that excel, either in sports or academically. And then there are those that are at the bottom, don't have a good relationship with anybody, struggle, but they have all kinds of potential. And they're what they're called treasure. And the purpose of this program is to go treasure hunting and help these students that are struggling to find their treasures, where they can excel at. Because each and every one of them, it is believed, is successful in some way or ways. It's just a matter of the staff finding that treasure and bringing it out for them. And it's primarily for schools, but it also fits in with us for our Parks and Rec and our Youth Administration, Youth Council. And I thought it was a good program. So it's going to be coming back around, as I understood from the presenter. He also is a professor at ASU, and they have a new program at ASU called Hopeology, if you'd like a degree in that. Thank you.
All right, interesting. Thank you, Councilmember Holz. Are there any other council members that would like to provide an update? I just wanted to, instead of an update, just recognize the Cottonwood Fire and Medical Department and personally thank them for going above and beyond the call of duty every day. And I was reminded of this and their dedication on a daily basis on Saturday night. The Cottonwood Fire and Medical Department responded to a what I consider significant gas leak at a business in Old Town that was caused by a hit-and-run driver. The department promptly disconnected the gas to the line, made sure that there weren't any occupants inside the property, made sure the property owner's agent was alerted Unisource Gas, and then made sure that the neighboring businesses were not negatively affected. I thought it was very nicely handled and wanted to thank the department for that. City Manager, do you have any updates for us?
But of course, Vice Mayor, thank you. A couple things. This month's rotating artist exhibit that you see up here tonight, beautiful pictures by the way, is a Kaleidoscope of Color by Carol Bohr. Carol is an alcohol ink artist. I almost said something else. I would have been in trouble. Sorry, Carol, if you're listening. An artist reception will be held Saturday, November 9th, this Saturday, here in the Chambers from 4 to 7 as part of the Old Town Second Saturday Art and Culture Walk. This exhibit will run through the 26th. Vice Mayor, I'm not sure you noticed, but we had an officer presenting awards today that was kind of scruffy.
I did notice, for the
Okay,
record.
just making sure. He actually had permission to do so. So right now, the Cottonwood police officers are participating in No Shave November and are authorized to grow a beard during the month of November. It costs them $25 to join in the fun, and then at the end of the month, they will have a contest and donate that money to a local charity. So thank you, Chief, for allowing that and having a little fun for our officers and giving back to the community. Walking on Main is this Saturday from 11 to 5. Come on down to Old Town for a fun-filled day of wine, art, music, and a classic car show. And if you can use YouTube, I think Jack is a star, is what I heard, on YouTube advertising that event from down in Phoenix. So thank you, Jack. The one I'm most excited about is our Cottonwood Community Clubhouse grand reopening, which will be this Saturday from November 9th from 10 to 11. They will have a ribbon-cutting ceremony with an open house to celebrate. We have speakers and historians and a lot of people to thank who helped finally bring closure to the clubhouse. If you get a chance to walk by and see the benches and the work that's been done already on the exterior, it's very nice. I got to see the curtains put up on the inside are all done, so we are done. We are not allowed to ask for any more money for that clubhouse, but we're excited about the grand opening. Great job to Hez and the HPC committee and everybody else who helped on that. A couple more things. The library will be hosting their Cottonwood Book Fair on Saturday, November 9th from 12 to 5 at the Cottonwood Community Clubhouse. So at the same, right after our event, they'll have their book fair. It's an excellent opportunity to learn the stories behind the stories and have unique experiences of putting a face to the name on the book. So they're actually going to have their authors of the books at the fair, if I'm not mistaken, right? Some of the authors will be there? Yes, I'm getting some head nods. And then we have a free pickleball night this Friday for grades 3 through 6 from 6 to 8 at the rec center. And as you learned earlier, our Parks and Rec intern, Sophia, is part of her internship, and she's working with the pickleball group at the rec center to teach kids about the game and how to play. And then I wanted to update council to let them know that I attended a waterways conference that was put on over in Camp Verde earlier this week by the Friends of the River and the Nature Conservancy. And they're putting together a report card on the health of the Verde River. It's a unique approach that's been done in some other watersheds throughout the country and the world. It doesn't look just at the river itself, but it looks at the community and the habitat and the economic development and all sorts of things. So in the next few months, you'll be seeing a report card come out on what they think of the health of our Verde River. And that concludes it.
Great, thank you. The next item on the agenda is presentations. We are continuing the first presentation to another meeting, so we'll go ahead and start the presentations with Ms. Thayer. She's the Executive Director of the YAVAPAI Justice and Mental Health Coalition. She's here tonight to present information regarding the mission and the goals of the coalition. The coalition addresses needs of people experiencing mental health and substance use needs in our community and that intersection with the justice system. Before Ms. Thayer begins her presentation, I'd also like to recognize and thank our Municipal Court Judge, Catherine Kelly, for being here tonight as well and for her support and involvement with the coalition. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and council members, City Manager. I'd also like to recognize a few of our founding coalition members and some folks who make all of this possible. So Fred and Audrey Dorfman are Cottonwood residents. Without their advocacy with the Sheriff's Office beginning years ago, we would not even be where we are right now. And their boots on the ground and really understanding about how to coordinate and work with individuals who are intersecting with the justice system, who may also be experiencing serious mental illness, co-occurring substance use disorders as well, and just really struggling. We've had a lot of coordination going on with the city of Cottonwood. Chief Giselle and his department is exceptionally beneficial in working with our behavioral health providers and crisis intervention, and I'll explain that a little bit further detail. Mick Jordal, Mike Shaw, the court system. There's been conversations as well about how to enhance that coordination with a lot of individuals experiencing homelessness and some of these other conditions such as mental illness, substance use. We work in collaboration with Angie's House very strongly in a lot of our coordination efforts for people leaving the jail with no safe place to stay. As you can imagine, that could exasperate a lot of criminal activity, which shouldn't even be there, like small things, trespassing, disorderly conduct, such as that as well. And then Christy Hamburg is our programs manager for the Reach Out program as well from the jail. I think that I've probably embarrassed enough people. So the YAVAPAI Justice and Mental Health Coalition is this fabulous group of amazing stakeholders throughout Yavapai County and most of our municipalities. And we contain behavioral health providers, law enforcement, first responders, housing, community members, veterans associations, the superintendent of schools. It's a great collaboration of folks, the county attorney's office, the superior court system, some municipalities as well, with our mission of building a healthy and safe community throughout partnerships and collaboration. So a few years ago, the sheriff's office had this fabulous idea that since all these individuals are coming to this one space, and it's hard to know when they're going to get out, we all know that the representation of people who are experiencing homelessness, other risk factors, unemployment, mental illness, substance use disorders overrepresent in the justice system. And those aren't necessarily the folks who need to be in detention at that time. They need to be connected to services. And so how can we do that? How can we connect people who are coming through? We all get the phone calls that says, my son just needs help, or, you know, I called law enforcement last night and it turned into disorderly conduct, and now the next thing, somebody's been arrested because that was the safe place to go. So we look at this intercept that anybody can go through where they might come into contact with the justice system. That can be before law enforcement is called, upon crisis when law enforcement might come out, upon booking into the jail, that first initial appearance with a judge, or later on as they're going through the court system, probation, release coordination. Anywhere in there, is there a way that we can make meaningful quality connections to support services so that you can get your basic needs met, and we can try to get them folks help at the quickest and lowest level of any kind of interference with the justice system, and divert them out. What would that look like? So what we've done, and on your handouts, I've given a little brochure about some of the reach out initiatives, and looking at trying to prevent folks, like I said, even from coming into the system. Inmate screening, your judges, both on the superior court level and the municipal court level, have access to release coordinators, and the majority of the people who are coming booked into jail have had the opportunity to meet with a release coordinator in which they look at screenings that could be risk factors for getting their life back together, or a risk factor for what caused the criminal activity for them to be booked in to begin with. There's a post-screening report then, if that it does occur, that's generated and goes to the initial appearance judge or anywhere else around the court, and they can also, so then the court can then support the individual in connecting to what services might be available. We have an amazing partnership with Spectrum Healthcare Group, in which they're able to provide some warm transfers from the jail to other behavioral health treatment providers, or their own treatment provider, regardless of where that is in the county, to try to give a warm handoff for these folks who need to engage in services. We work very closely with the probation departments to do release plannings, to help probation understand what the person is planning, what they need for when they are released, and if that person also needs to go into a higher level of care for treatment, such as residential treatment, we can help plan that and coordinate that with behavioral health services as well. And then working with our community partners, like I said, such as housing and veteran services, employment services, knowing what services are out there to support those unmet needs that some folks are struggling with. So we were lucky to receive legislative dollars beginning last fiscal year to really help enhance this Reach Out project as a pilot project. We received it from the governor's office. And then the county attorney's office has also assisted financially with some funding that they had allocated to them as well. And then a few other wonderful supporters, such as the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission and the NARBA Institute, have been able to support us with coordination, with the coalition, with a lot of pulling people together. It takes a lot to spin these wheels and make all these cogs go around. So part of our promise back to the state was that we would pull in a third-party evaluator to look at our data. We were able to develop a cross-system recidivism tracking database, and that means everybody who is getting screened, our release coordinators can put that information in. Our behavioral health providers, if somebody signed a release of information, they can come back and tell us later if the person stayed engaged in services. And then also our law enforcement and our 5 dispatch entities can also use it to see that Cottonwood PD had an encounter with this individual last week and had to call in Spectrum Healthcare to assist them. And so then they can reach back out to Spectrum and say, hey, we've got BEYA here. We would like to deflect her and we want to give her a safe place to stay. So we have this database that is being used appropriately by different entities to help us see what's going on and how to help evaluate. So I am here tonight because I'm excited that we have our first third-party look at the statistics. And of course, one of the most important things that we want to show is that the folks coming through our jail are coming back at a lower rate than what would happen perhaps if they didn't have all this support system available. Unfortunately, it's really hard to find baseline data on recidivism rates and recidivism rates for new charges. So what we did is utilized a study that was done in 2011 based on some 2004 data looking at longevity, which in Arizona it was about 28% recidivism rates for new charges. And so our partners with NAU who took our data took from March 2018 to March 2019, because then that gave 6 months for someone to get in trouble and make their way back into booking. And our recidivism rates were down to 16%. So we're looking at what we're doing is making a difference. The other, this box up here on the left is showing that our screenings are increasing. When, of course, when we started a program, we weren't fully staffed and fully trained, and now we are, and our screenings are getting up to about 90–95% of the people who are booking into jail. So these numbers, of course, were for that March to March dates, and we connected 1,168 people referred to services. So another important thing to look at is what are the risk factors of the folks coming into jail. So we have the 3 main ones are mental health, substance use, and adverse childhood experiences. Traumas that occur early in life can manifest themselves later into some of these behavioral health concerns. And so those are some of the questions that we do ask, along with some other risk factors and demographics. So the bottom box on the first page shows that 32% of the individuals coming into jail have a moderate risk for mental health needs, and 14% have a high risk. And then if you look at substance use, we have 27% having a high risk for substance use. And starting at the beginning, we're at between 50 and 60% for moderate risks as well. So the people who are coming into jail, we're trying to connect them right away and capture what's going on and what can we help with. Other risk factors that we're looking at, if someone has been involved, a veteran, because there's veteran services available. Homelessness, people who have disclosed that they don't have a safe place to sleep is pretty high. That was 23%. Physical health concern was also 23%. Not having a ride upon release is 28%, and that's extremely vulnerable. You guys know that we share the parking lot with a wild animal park. So there's a lot that can happen walking down 260 and ensuring, especially some of our most vulnerable people, have safe transportation to a safe place to stay. And then employment is just skyrocket. It is the next thing next to mental health at 45%. Like I said, the reach out isn't just that coordination piece upon booking. Part of it is not even getting people into the justice system. And what I really wanted to express is how wonderful our law enforcement is doing, working with our behavioral health partners in recognizing signs and symptoms of mental health needs, substance abuse needs, and deflecting and calming the scenarios that a lot of people have come into. It's sad when a parent of an adult child, calls law enforcement saying, he's not taking his meds, I don't know what to do, he's really angry, what should I do? Law enforcement shows up, the scene just escalates, and the next thing you know, the person ends up incarcerated, and then the parent says, I never would have called to begin with, and then they're in the justice system. Or when law enforcement comes across somebody, perhaps trespassing, and yes, that could be a crime, but why are they trespassing? What is going on? What can we do to stop the cycle of becoming into the justice system? And our law enforcement partners, especially Cottonwood PD, they started a long time ago working with Spectrum Healthcare and the mobile crisis teams. They also go through mental health first aid training to recognize signs and symptoms of mental health needs for first responders. And then we have an advanced crisis intervention team training that occurs twice a year. It's a 40-hour training for law enforcement, probation, detention officers, dispatch, to also really kind of support officers in knowing what could be going on with an individual and what resources are out there. And so this bottom text that's kind of hard, small little writing in here, these numbers are actually for looking at a calendar year. And in the calendar year of 2017, there were 9,324 bookings into the YAVAPAI Detention Center. For calendar year 2018, we've really ramped up supporting behavioral health and law enforcement's partnerships together. And during 2018, we have documented over 1,000 deflections in which law enforcement was either able to pass the person off to the crisis stabilization unit that West Yavapai runs, the Taros Mobile Crisis Unit, or Spectrum Mobile Crisis Unit. And for 2018, our bookings went down to just over 8,400. So we have over 800 less bookings in 1 year, the same year that we are able to document that law enforcement did a warm handoff or some kind of deflection diversion to behavioral health. And even now with our jail populations, daily count being about 550, we're still overbooked at the jail, but it could be well over 650 people per day if it wasn't for folks such as Steve Giselle and many of our other law enforcement agencies really supporting this effort and working together, because it's one heck of a village. And I would like for you guys to understand what your community is working through and trying to really work together to support some of our most vulnerable individuals. That is what I have. I'll take questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Thayer, either from the audience or council members or staff? No questions? I'd like to say thank you. I like the phrase you just used, it takes a heck of a village. This topic, that's something that we discuss at every single strategic planning retreat that I've attended, during my tenure so far as a council member. There are community resources out there, but sometimes how do we connect the resources with the population that needs those resources? And so a kind of a recurring theme every year is the more we learn, the more we discuss, the more we hear presentations such as this one, the better we're able to connect and really work together as a village to try to get help for the people that need the help. So I'd like to thank you again for being here tonight. I'd also like to thank the members of the coalition that came tonight as well. Thank you for everything that you're doing for our community.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, council cannot engage in any discussion regarding an item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action. Comments from the public are limited to a 5-minute time period. Are there any members of the public tonight that would like to address council? Okay, I don't see anybody that would like to address council, so we'll move on to the approval of minutes. There are 2 sets of minutes for approval tonight, those from the regular meeting of October 15, 2019, and from the special meeting of October 17, 2019. Has every council member had a chance to get any changes over to our city clerk? And if so, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second. So the motion was made by Councilmember Matthews, second by Vice Mayor Henry. Can we go ahead and have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Halls?
Yes?
Councilmember Howdige?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes. And the minutes are approved. The next items on the agenda are the items of unfinished business. Tonight we have 3 ordinances that we'd previously discussed, and they're coming back before council tonight. The first is ordinance number 668, amending section 406, parking and loading requirements of the zoning ordinance. The amendments add new sections 1 to 5 to section 406 C2D regarding alternative paving and servicing options. This is the second and final reading tonight.
Vice Mayor, there's been no changes. Staff is here to answer questions. We've received no comments or questions from the community, and we don't have anything new to add, but if you have questions, we're here.
So do any council members have any questions for Mr. Ellis or Mr. Corbin on the amendments? Do any members of the public have any questions or comments, any discussion on the proposed amendments? All right, any other discussion?
I move to approve ordinance number 668.
Second?
All right, the motion was made by Councilmember Naren, second by Councilmember Matthews. May we also have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Halls?
Yes?
Councilmember Howdige? Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. And will you please read ordinance number 668 by title only?
Ordinance number 668, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending section 406, parking and loading requirements of the zoning ordinance by adding new sections 1 through 5 to section 406C2D pertaining to porous paving and surfacing options. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next item is ordinance number 669. This ordinance amends sections 12.12.030 and 12.12-040 of the 1993 Parks and Recreation Code. This is also the second and final reading.
And Madam Vice Mayor, the same thing. We can answer questions, but we've received no comments or input from the community. So unless council has questions, we're good to go.
Are there any questions from any members of the council? Any questions from any members of the public here tonight? Any discussion? Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward. We've reviewed this before, so I'll go ahead and move to approve ordinance number 669.
Second.
Vice Mayor Henry made the motion. The second was from Councilmember Hulse. Madam Clerk, if we can also have another roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Hulse?
Yes.
Councilmember Howdy?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Nairn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. And if you will also please read ordinance number 669 by title only.
Ordinance number 669, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending sections 12.12.030 and 12.12.040 of the 1993 Parks and Recreation Code. Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. The final item under unfinished business tonight is ordinance number 670. This ordinance amends Title 12 regarding sidewalks and public places of the Cottonwood Municipal Code by deleting Chapter 12.16, recreation fees, in its entirety. This is also the second and final reading for this ordinance.
And Vice Mayor, excuse me, and Vice Mayor, once again, we're here to answer questions if you have any, but we've received no input from the community.
Okay. Any members of council or the community have any questions or discussion on this item? Again, this is not the first time that we've seen this. It's pretty straightforward. I appreciate staff for taking the initiative and making this change. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 670.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilmember Matthews, second by Councilmember Nairn. Madam Clerk, if we could have another roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Hulse?
Yes.
Councilmember Howdy?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Nairn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And if you will please read ordinance number 670 by title only.
Ordinance number 670, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending Title 12 sidewalks and public places of the Cottonwood Municipal Code by deleting Chapter 12.16 recreation fees in its entirety. Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. That takes us then to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Tonight, we have 5 items listed on the consent agenda. The first is acceptance of a 2019 Homeland Security grant for the Cottonwood Fire and Medical Department. The second item is the amendment to the agreement with Silver Springs Garden Homes Homeowners Association for maintenance of a portion of the Silver Springs Wash. The third item is an amendment of custodial services contract with Melton and Sons to reduce the number of custodial service days and annual costs for specified city facilities. The fourth item is acceptance of a Governor's Office of Highway Safety grant for traffic records enforcement related materials and supplies. The fifth item is acceptance of a 2019 Homeland Security grant for a cybersecurity risk mitigation plan. Are there any members of council that would like an item pulled from the consent agenda? Is there any member of the public that would like an item pulled from the consent agenda? All right, then I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Vice Mayor Henry made the motion. Councilmember Hulse had the second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. That takes us to new business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. First item is resolution number 3038, adopting the proposed new Parks and Recreation Program and facility use, membership and rental rates, fee, charges, and deposits. And we have Hezekiah Allen here tonight to introduce this item. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, Council, Hezekiah Allen with the Parks Recreation Department. Before you tonight is a resolution, basically adopting fees, going through this copies of, so let me back up a little bit. So adoption of the new rates, fees, charges, and deposits. Also alluding to that copies of the fees will be kept at the rec center and here at the clerk's office, and the effective date. At this time, I'll pass it over to City Attorney Steve Horton, see if he has anything to add.
So this dovetails with the ordinances you adopted earlier before the consent agenda that pulled provisions relating to fees that were scattered in the code and authorizes them to be adopted, which is a more nimble process, by resolution. This way the council can review them as part of the annual budget cycle at other times. And these cover rental of different facilities within the recreation center, the clubhouse, meeting facilities, the riverfront meeting room, ball fields. Well, I think there's no charge for ball fields as long as the users do the maintenance. The pool, tennis courts, and things like that. And this just provides one place, and it's part of the council's strategic initiative of being transparent with the public.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Allen? Are there any questions from the public for Mr. Allen? One thing that I found valuable about the process was that you and Mr. Corbin kept council informed at every step of the way. So it was helpful when we were finally reviewing and seeing everything put together, that we had the building blocks all along. So I know that took some additional time by both you and Mr. Corbin, but I do appreciate that. It made it, I guess, more cohesive and easier, for me at least, as I was reviewing this now for tonight. So thank you for that.
And I would agree that Mr. Corbin's leadership style, and it's great to learn from him.
Well, I don't know about that, Vice Mayor, but Mary Ann and Steve Horton actually guided us through this process. It was complicated, so I'm glad we were able to keep you in the loop. But I think the process moving forward, all the rates in one place, come before council as one group, so that you're approving all our fees. There's no administrative charges. I think it's very transparent, this new system. So thank you to Steve and Mary Ann for helping us bring this to fruition.
Absolutely, thank you. Any other discussion?
I move to approve resolution number 3038.
Second?
All right, Councilmember Nairn made the motion. The second was from Councilmember Matthews. If we can, please have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Hulse?
Yes?
Councilmember Howdigy?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Nairn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Now, again, City Attorney, are we reading resolutions by title only?
I think we are outside the consent agenda. I think there's been discussion about maybe being consistent about reading them, whether they're part of or are not part of the consent agenda, but it is, as opposed to a legal requirement, it's a historic practice, and council's prerogative.
I'd rather go ahead and abide by historic practice then, please.
Resolution number 3038, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, adopting the proposed new parks and recreation facility use, membership and rental rates, fees, charges, and deposits. Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Were there any items on the consent agenda that needed to be read on the record? I didn't notice any, but before we proceeded.
No, I was just waiting to see if anybody was going to pull any of the items for discussion, but no,
Okay.
the record is clear.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the resignation of Councilwoman Deb Althouse from the Cottonwood City Council. As part of that process, the council also has to declare the seat open and then establish a process for filling the vacancy. I would like to thank our city clerk for the background information and also kind of trying to help guide or helping guide us through a calendar for the process. And I'd like to turn this over to our city attorney, Steve, for a little bit of additional guidance as far as his perspective as we move forward to navigate this.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor and Council. We have a recent precedent for this, but both under state law and our code. When there is a vacancy, when there's a vacancy on council, some vacancies are self-executing. Some, if a council member were to leave the jurisdiction, they would cease to be able to serve. They would cease to be qualified. In a case like this, when
a council member has tendered her resignation, before it is self-executing, it would be incumbent on the council to accept the resignation, declare the vacancy, and then what law and code say is you have to establish a process for filling the vacancy. And because there is enough time prior to the next election, the seat would only be filled by that person until the next election, and they would be required to run or vacate the seat in favor of somebody else.
Thank you. And before we go any further, too, I did want to, on the record, during the meeting, thank Councilmember Althouse for her years of service to the community. She had a tremendous impact on the lives of many of our community members. I've heard many positive comments from community members about her efforts. She was especially, and is especially, passionate about veterans, motorcycle rider safety and education, and also something that I truly have appreciated, her sense of fiscal conservatism and her efforts to reduce city spending in a smart manner, as well as to try to reduce, pay down some of our debt and build up our reserves. So I personally would like to thank Deb for her many years of service, and I wish her all the best as she moves forward in this next chapter, adventure, whatever you'd like to call it, as she moves forward. So thank you, Deb. Any other comments before we really get down to the nitty-gritty of the schedule, the calendar, and the process that we'd like to implement moving forward?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate that. It's, and I've told her personally, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to serve with her and to see what she's done inside this chamber and outside this chamber for our community. And we're going to greatly miss her contribution in both areas.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are here with us, and as our city attorney mentioned, we had been through this process when we appointed Councilmember Nairn. And so how I kind of wanted to tee it up is to see what your thoughts were, if you thought that process we used worked, and if so, which of the timelines you'd like to consider. Our clerk did prepare 3 different alternatives for the dates. Some concerns that I'd like to consider are we're going right into the Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year holidays. People have vacation. So if we're trying to recruit, a good number of candidates or applicants for the position, how we time the closing of the application process and the, holiday vacations is something that we do need to consider. So have you had a chance to review the alternatives for the dates, and do you have any thoughts about, do we prioritize giving applicants more time to apply, or do we try to have them seated? I believe our city manager had said he wanted to have them seated in time for the strategic planning retreat.
That was my hope, Vice Mayor, but it is the pleasure of the council, the process and the timing. That is the only concern I had. Talking to others, anybody who's in the application process, while we have our strategic plan meeting is open to the public. So I'm assuming any viable candidate would try to be present. They may not be able to participate as much as if they were seated, but our meeting is open to the public. So worst case scenario, we might have 4 or 5 members of the community there to listen to how council interacts.
All right, thank you. All right, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'd obviously like to see as many candidates as possible apply. I think as far as timelines go, our small part is, not necessarily a small part, but just the interviewing and consideration process. I think as far as the timeline goes, I would defer to the logistics on what staff and the city manager think is a good timeline to work on to get to our goals. But so I don't have any preference on a particular timeline.
Okay. Councilmember Holst?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Councilmember Matthew. I think I understand where the city manager is coming from, having the council or the council position appointed when we start our strategic planning. I think that would be beneficial. I'm not sure, if we continue the process beyond that date. The candidates, may or may not be able to take the time to come to the strategic planning, which may or may not put them at a disadvantage if they were appointed. You know, I would recommend that we go with the alternate date 1 that has been suggested by staff for the process. I don't believe that there should be a whole lot of problems. People who want to apply are probably already planning to make their presentations since it's been in the newspaper and been announced. That's just my suggestion.
Okay, so you're leaning toward the alternative 1,
Yes.
which that would mean we would announce publish tomorrow and then have approximately 2 weeks for the application deadline, so a deadline of November 21st with special meetings on the 25th of November, December 5th, and December 10th for the interviews and then the subsequent appointments. How about on this side, Councilmember Nairn, what are your thoughts on the time frame?
I think that it would be prudent for us to fill the position as quickly as we can so that we have a full council as quickly as possible. So I would agree that alternate 1 is probably the way to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I also can support alternate 1. See no reason why not.
Okay. So personally, I think that the 2 weeks is a little, especially with the holidays in there, is a little bit of a tight time frame. But I also recognize the desire to have somebody actively participate in the strategic planning retreat and really kind of get a chance to interact with the rest of us and work as a team collaboratively.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, if I could add, the concern for me would be the 25th. That is a special session on the Monday of the short week of the Thanksgiving week. So this group would need to be able to meet. The 25th is probably the one date in this list that I want to just make sure that everybody's available. Is going to be in town the week of Thanksgiving, that Monday. If I'm correct, Mariana? That's
Correct.
okay.
Yes, it's Monday before Thanksgiving.
I have no problem with that.
I have no problem.
At this time, I plan to be in town.
Okay.
My wife told me that I had to stay in town.
Okay. That works,
So,
Councilmember Haddock.
I've got one question on that. If for some reason we do have a lack of a number of candidates during that 2 weeks, are we able to step in and perhaps delay that and give some more time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is your process. Absolutely. If, as we move forward, it requires some mid-course corrections.
flexibility,
You can
okay.
absolutely make them.
And that's a very good point, Councilmember Matthews. I'm glad you raised it. So it looks like if there are no or insufficient applications by November 21st, our next regularly scheduled meeting is not until the 3rd.
Vice Mayor, if I can add, if there's very few applications, Mary Ann and I can reach out to either you and/or the mayor, and we can make a decision to cancel the special meeting and then rediscuss it a few weeks later. If we did that, we probably would announce that we're still accepting applications or something like that, but we can work offline to cancel a meeting. We don't need a vote to cancel a meeting. Okay.
That's good. I think that sounds fair. Then the other item that we needed to discuss is filling the vacancy either by, I thought you'd already addressed this actually, City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, we're just appointing for the unexpired term.
You are.
And so I'm just reinventing the wheel. I apologize for that. Any other discussion from council on this? Any discussion from members of the public? Yes, if you can please. Okay,
I wasn't sure if it would be prudent or necessary.
Thank you.
thank you.
Greetings, council, mayor, everybody else. My name is Jesse Dowling. I was previously a council member for about 5 years. I had to leave the council when I had to move out of town. I am now a resident of Cottonwood again. So I guess I'm going to formally say, if I wish I had a hat I could throw, but I am interested in this, and I just wanted to attend tonight to let you know that I am interested. I do have a background of it. I am on the Planning and Zoning Commission already, so I'm coordinating with Steve if necessary. I don't want to leave anybody high and dry, but I had already been considering a run for the council in the next 2020 cycle. So when I heard this, I thought, well, I might as well give it a shot. So I just wanted to pass that along formally, or however that would be. And let's see how would I put that. I don't know that I can afford to take a vacation because I finally got a house back in Cottonwood. So you don't have to worry about me leaving. You don't have to worry about me leaving anywhere. And I did have a pretty good attendance record. That'll all shake out as it does. But thank you for the opportunity to try and throw my hat in the ring for that. And look forward to serving the city and serving with some of you and trying to make the best things we can happen.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Dowling. Are there any other comments on this agenda item? Any other hats to be thrown in the proverbial ring? All right. Then I'll go ahead and move to accept Deb Althouse's resignation from her seat on the Cottonwood City Council effective November 5th, 2019, and approve alternate one, or the dates listed on alternate one for the appointment for the remainder of the unexpired term.
Second.
All right, Vice Mayor Henry made the motion. Councilmember Hulse had the second. Madam Clerk, if we may have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Hulse?
Yes.
Councilmember Howdigy?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. The next item is the claims and adjustment.
Move that we accept the claims and adjustment.
Second?
The motion was made by Councilmember Holst, second by Councilmember Matthews. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All right, the motion was made by Councilmember Holst, second by Councilmember Nairn. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Have a good evening.